Hello friends and greetings for the day. Welcome back to another tutorial on ISTQB Advanced Test Manager Certification. We are in chapter 1 talking about the testing process, and as a part of this tutorial we are getting into the next phase, which is 1.5, the test implementation. As a part of test implementation, we already know from foundation that these are the activities which are generally conducted in order to make sure that you are ready for execution or not. And there are a lot of such things which need to be measured or checked as a precondition in order to make sure that have you done what you were supposed to do, and once you get into the execution you will not have any kind of return paths, or probably you don't have to stop over to continue preparing your test cases or probably prioritizing your test cases and then realize that a lot of things are missing. So as a part of test implementation, mainly it is to organize everything and set up and make sure that everything is well evaluated and things are in place before you can start making use of it or start deploying them in the execution phase. So not only that, even the test design phase where you created your test cases, you will make sure that everything is very well concreted with supporting all necessary data and procedures which will be followed in order to execute a particular test case. Also, to ensure that the test executions will be taking place, then what kind of teams do you have, what kind of availability of the team you have, whether everyone is ready to get going with the execution or not. Even you check on the availability of the test environment which you will be using in order to run, because of course you might have different environments at different point of time to conduct different levels of testing. So you do make sure that at least with the initial level of testing like unit and integration and so on, you have the environment set up and ready to use. And definitely that becomes a very important factor in case of entry criteria to determine to start with a kickoff with the test execution phase. Moreover, even the level of details and the associated complexity of each work item will determine how exactly your execution will go on. Because if you have a lot of detail involved, of course, it is going to consume a lot of time to execute and more importance given to those test cases which probably have more detailed infrastructure and information involved, because a tester has to be very careful with all these details in order to create a scenario when executing these test cases. So these all factors, depending on the level of detail provided to you, will also influence the execution, and in fact definitely let you log the same kind of details in order to satisfy the conditions. Plus, of course, we do have the ordering and the sequencing of the test cases which you created in the previous stage. And this prioritizations and sequencing of the test cases is generally documented in a form of test execution schedule. Now, test execution schedule not only deals with prioritization based on the risk or any other complexity factor. You do have a lot of other things which involves here is like the dependency. Now again, dependency deals with technical dependency, logical dependency, and that would definitely help and add more value to this. Now, at this point of time, a test manager should be very careful to check any of the constraints which might be involved in order to determine the prioritization, because not just everything comes with the flow. A lot of things has to be considered and taken care of right with the test manager in order to make sure that all the factors which influences your execution order or sequencing of a particular test cases, then definitely that constraints must be considered before creation of the test schedule. And even if it is created, if you see as per the ISTQB, they say that the testers are the one who create test execution schedule. Then test manager can definitely have a quick check on these things which are being created to finally determine the right order and making sure that everything is well established in order to run the test smoothly. There are many other disadvantages of early test implementation as well. So in the previous stage, we understood that test implementation can actually begin before the end of test design. But what could be the disadvantage of having early test implementation happening? So within Agile lifecycle, for example, the code may change dramatically from iteration to iteration, rendering much of the implementation work obsolete. Now, of course, when you have frequent changes involved in your project, early implementation could sound vain. Rather you need to rework a lot of things at any point of time to fulfill the need and expectation of the requirement or probably the code. Because even if you run those test cases, might not be applicable with the new code which has evolved between the iterations. So that's one of the things. And even without a life cycle, which is as change prone as agile, and any iterative or incremental life cycle may result in significant changes without iterations as well, or between iterations, making scripted tests unreliable or subjected to high maintenance needs. So these are all the factors which could be considered as one of the demerits of starting implementation early. But at the same time, you cannot ignore the advantages of having early implementation. For example, concrete test cases provide worked examples of how the software should behave. If written in accordance with the test basis, it could be really helpful. And business domain experts are likely to find verification of concrete test cases easier than verification of abstract business rules. So, of course, you can very well compare the difference between the abstract and the concrete details for any entity. That would really give a lot of difference to you, and may thereby identify further weaknesses in the software specification. So putting it all together, when it comes to the implementation, we make sure that whatever we wanted to have with us is everything available, and at the time of execution you do not have any kind of showstopper interrupting you to run your executions, and you just don't want to stop over and do something which you were supposed to do much earlier. So being a test manager, you make sure that you control all these activities, and you do check yourself before you push things to the next phase coming up in the process and the testing lifecycle. Well, that's all from the test implementation team. Should you have anything else, feel free to comment below. I'm always there to address your queries and respond to them well. Till then, keep learning, keep exploring, keep understanding the context. Thanks for watching the video, team, and happy learning.